Okay. Now let's talk about how strategies fail. I'm going to give three examples of strategies and how they failed. Okay, now this is the general libertarian strategy. Remember, that was the one that just said, state of society, and then the arrow said effective libertarian activism. Okay, that gets you to a free society. But things can go wrong. And in this diagram, I want to show how things can go wrong. Now, this arrow here, where I'm pointing with the mouse, this is the effective libertarian activism that I showed, that was in the previous diagram. Okay, but now we have 3 additional arrows. Okay, now this is the one, if it fails, ineffective libertarian activism, or libertarian change activism. And you'll be going around in circles around this loop here until you have effective libertarian activism. And you could say that we're in that loop right now. Okay? And also, when you get to a free society, staying there is not automatic. I mean, it'll be easier to stay there once you get there, but things can go wrong. So you have to have some type of maintenance activism. It doesn't have to be as costly as the change activism, but you have to have something. And something, like a crisis situation, might result in enough people in the society letting the state take control again and becoming a state of society. So this diagram indicates 2 things. It illustrates how many have stated in various ways that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. Gains can be lost. On the other hand, losses can be regained. And it also illustrates the fact that because you have more than one arrow coming out of the boxes, whenever you see more than one arrow coming out of a box, it represents a choice, either by us or by our opponents. So that's a very important point. Choice. All right. Problems that can go wrong with civil disobedience. Okay, this is very similar. But, this is the case where you get to a free society and a crisis can send you back to a statist one. And here there's people who continue to support the state despite activists trying to convince them not to. This is just basically filling in the details of that previous diagram with more specific information about the civil disobedience strategy. Okay, now converting the monarch with failures. Okay, this is the same diagram, but I've added the usual backtracking arrows, reverse arrows. Then this shows 2 ways that this strategy has failed in the past. Okay. Now this is one failure mode right here. The libertarian king dies in office. Actually, if you read the essay by Rothbard, what actually happened was the libertarian who wasn't actually a king yet. He was in line to become king. And he died before he could take office. Okay? So when he died, that was the end of the strategy, at least for that particular king. And that's what happened. And in the other case where they actually got fairly close, there were other forces in society which prevented him from transforming it the way he wanted to. The libertarian strategist didn't anticipate the amount of power that the other people had. So that's how the strategy failed in that case. So those were 2 actual types of failures. Okay, that's 3 examples of how strategies can fail. Now let's talk about why strategies fail. Now, with all the reading that I've done and thinking about all these various problems, these are the reasons I've come up with for why libertarian strategies have been failing. Probably the biggest one is shortage of resources. We need more money, we need more people, we need more everything. Internal problems such as failure to anticipate moves by the opposition, poor internal decisions, self-interest, favoritism, and infighting, taking precedence over project goals. This was a big one in the Libertarian Party. And, those were internal problems. External problems, government regulations, bureaucratic roadblocks, vote fraud during elections. I think Tamara Clark, she would have actually taken office, but there was vote fraud, and they've proven it there was vote fraud, and that's the reason she didn't get into office. Infiltration of organizations. Well, the CIA and Other counterintelligence organizations, they infiltrate, and the FBI, they infiltrate organizations. They don't want us to succeed. And they get in and they mess things up. By the way, Bob Barr supposedly is a former CIA employee. I don't know whether that means he's an infiltrator or not, but you never know. They say once you work for the CIA, you always work for the CIA. All right, now, there seems to be various causes for these problems. One biggie that I see is that a lot of the organizations, libertarian organizations, have a hierarchical structure which makes them rigid, slow, and vulnerable to infiltration. When you've got a hierarchical structure, there are key people in the organization, and if you can replace them or prevent them from doing their job, you can cripple an entire organization. Okay, another reason, or another cause, shortage of activists who might be able to do oversight and problem fixing and contributing time, money, and other resources. If we had more activists and more believers in the cause who were contributing, we could do a lot more and we'd have a lot fewer problems. Okay, that was shortage of activists. This is shortage of believers. They don't contribute time, but they do contribute money, and sometimes they contribute other resources. Okay, we don't have many of those. We could do better if we had more. Little or no immediate benefit for believers and activists, which discourages them contributing. People like to get a return on their investment. Libertarians would like to eventually live in a free society. That would be the return on their investment. But a lot of the strategies that are in play now, they don't give very much return on investment, not right away. You're not going to get what you want until, people get into office, or the state collapses, or some major event happens, which is a long distance away. And because of that, because they don't get immediate benefits, people are less likely to contribute. Okay, some strategies involve activities that the state considers to be crimes. And although these are victimless crimes, some of these have very heavy penalties. And the risk of these penalties discourages people becoming involved in those strategies. I know I'm one of them. I'm basically chicken. And I think there are a lot of other people out there who feel the same way. And I think that's a big break on some of our success so far. Secrecy can be used to reduce these risks, but secrecy is becoming harder and harder to attain. This is because of the recent anti-terror legislation, especially after 9/11, and because of advances in the technology of sensors and computers that they use for the collection, searching, and distribution of intelligence. Although it's not possible for the state to detect all victimless crimes, they can detect and prosecute enough of them to be a significant problem, to create that risk, which has a negative impact on being a volunteer, being a believer, and a contributor. So these are the causes of some of the problems that we have, at least in my opinion. All right, that's why strategies fail. How much time do we have? Okay, now we're near the end. I want to talk about some of the things we could do to improve some of these.